Good morning. Good to see all of you, both here in Zendo, quite a few people here today. It's the last, I think we have 4 more days of our Ango, which is 27 days, 29 days long. So it's been good practice for us all. So thank you for coming and participating as Sangha, as this spiritual community. Also, thank you for all of the help that all of you give to us in so many different ways, including financial support. It's very much appreciated and needed. So thank you. And all of the participation, we call it, I guess the word is free labor. People put a tremendous amount of work in this. I could itemize that, but it'd be time for the Dharma talk. Anyway, thank you. And please continue to help us if you can. We have this fundraiser is slowly getting off the ground for the community mindfulness center that we refer to here in the monastery. We refer to it as the Buddha Hall because we don't have a Buddha Hall. All we have is a Zendo here. So today's Dharma talk, something you probably heard before. It's not nothing new. I just like the title description, and it allows me to go in a direction it's very difficult to go conceptually. It's just difficult to talk about if you spent a lot of time studying, practicing, meditating, contemplating, working with a teacher, working with a Sangha, working with all the different 2,500 years of texts that are out there, not just in Buddhism, but in all different directions. Secret, that's a common word, secret, beyond thought, beyond emotion, feeling, memory, beyond it. How do you do that? We can't even get into it. We can't get around it. We keep running into this. All kinds of ways of teaching. One of the ways that I studied for many decades and taught to others is Shamatha Vipassana, or Shine Laktung is the Tibetan, sometimes called mindfulness awareness. A wonderful practice. The difficulty, and this doesn't happen to everyone, but the difficulty can be, unless you're working with a teacher closely, the difficulty could be is making a little hideout in the mindfulness. You get very good at labeling thinking, return to the breath. Label thinking, return to the breath, and creating an imaginary present. You're in the present moment kind of thing. Doesn't always happen, but it can. Whereas Shikantaza includes both of those practices of sitting still, calm abiding, you could say, and just hanging out in consciousness. Vipassana, Maha Vipassana, the great panoramic awareness. It's up to you. You would know whether you want to practice Shikantaza or you want to practice Shamatha Vipassana or creation completion deity yoga. Maybe you should be doing that. It's up to you. You decide if it is even a decision. So secret beyond thought. My understanding of that, based on doing this for a while, is you have to look at the thought. Don't think about the thought. Don't add to the thought. No comment on the thought. No addition. No math. Don't add. Don't divide. Don't subtract. Passion, aggression, and ignorance, again, just in a different structure. Do nothing with it other than be aware of it, receive it, smell this fragrance or odor beyond the perception, beyond that. Even though it says perception only, that takes a while. Excuse me. And how do we do that? We need to continually return to awareness, just perception only. And that's difficult because quite often what happens is when the thought arises that we are endeavoring to just watch the thoughts arise and float away, or watch the emotions, watch the memory. Memory is a terrible trap. It's like invisible Velcro. It just gets you. And why does that do that? You want a why question here? I can do that. Why? The reason it gets you is the second noble truth. We want something else instead of being The other way, the very relative way, and also misleading way, is to be satisfied with what you got. You've got. Don't do that. Be satisfied. Anything you, any position you take, satisfaction, dissatisfaction, ego. Ego just chews on those and gets all kinds of nutrients. That keeps that imaginary self spinning, twirling, creating problems for yourself and for others. Very difficult. There will not be, if you're on the spiritual path and you realize your true nature, it's not a conclusion. It's not even an experience. If it is, then you can kind of remember how enlightened you are. The memory is dead. It's often been talking to, like Trungpa Rinpoche once said, listening to me is like listening to a dead man. It's that good and it's that bad. It's very bad, but it's extremely good because consciousness is liberated, even though there's still a body here wandering around, pumping into things and getting hungry, getting sleepy. You have to see it yourself. With your permission, I will help you. Without your permission, I won't ignore you. I'm not going to do that, but I will not endeavor to teach you. I know better than to try to teach someone who is not interested, because this is a very, very subtle teaching. It's heartbreakingly subtle, heartbreakingly, because if you see it, you see you can't give that to anyone. Because consciousness has found its own form in a human form, you and you. It's showing up in you, and you personalize the whole thing with your memories, your idea of what happened last week, what someone said to you, what your closest friend is now doing that is going another direction. They're not so friendly anymore. Constant story after story after story. What do I say about that? Just observe those. If you believe that stuff or disbelieve it or ignore it, passion, aggression, and ignorance, it's got you right by the ass, to be literal about it. And it will just tag around and it'll interpret everything for you. Heartbreaking to see the suffering in the world and know that the only way, and I'm not saying it is the only way, but the only way it looks like here is that you have to see what the fundamental issue is, and that is mistaken identity, that there is a separate being somewhere called you or me or us or political figures or movie stars. That's the illusion. And it is an illusion. So something happens, the practice part of it. Well, let's start with this. The ego part of it is something happens, and then we think about it, add to it, comment on it, and analyze it, find who's to blame, who gets credit. We do all that. We create these constant stories in our mind about why it's happening, why it shouldn't have happened. I don't deserve this, on and on. You could go on. I don't need to go any further. And then the one who is training the mind, that would be something arises, no comment. Something arises with sharp edges, sharp claws, sharp teeth, no comment. No, don't run away, don't turn away. Just look at it. This is what you're training yourself to do. I assume everyone in here is practicing some form of shikantaza. And you may not be able to do this. You may just say, screw it. Is that wrong? No, you may not be able to do this. Billions of people are not even interested. If they were to sit right here next to you, well, maybe 500 million would fit in here and listen to what is being said. There's so much, I don't know the word for it, maybe garbage or maybe dessert plates are hanging out in their mind stream that they either have to go to war with something or go to peace with something. Both of those are problematic. Take no position. How do you do that? You watch the way you continually take positions on everything, on yourself, on others, and those may never go away. They don't need to go away if you see what they are. They're unreal. Totally. And anytime you meet anybody and talk to someone, if you see what this is, it only takes about 3 or 4 minutes to see how much somebody is stuck on their thoughts and can't see that that's what's happening. And do you have permission to do anything? Even if you're their teacher, you don't have permission necessarily to say, you could take a look at how crazy you are. to be blunt. All you have to do is be aware of it. Sounds simple, extremely hard. Rest of your life can go by as you're trying to do that. So secret beyond thought is, we could also, using that image, we could also say the gobbledygook that is in front of the thought, whatever you're adding on to the thought, instead of just seeing, just bear attention, just shamatha vipassana or mahavipassana. Just watch the space that shows up with the thought. Look at the space in which the thought occurs, and that way you begin to see the mirror-like quality of your mind. And that's still path. It doesn't end up being a mirror. It doesn't end up being anything. So observe that. Observe that. Be very, very generous to everything and all the six sense fields, including the mind. Give it your attention. Smell, taste, touch, feel, hear, think. This is very difficult. Very difficult. If you get close to me and I see that you can't come this way any further without fighting with me, I'll chase you away. And there's lots of ways of doing that. If you don't understand that, there's room for questions. Not yet. So watching the way you push or the way you pull or change or blame or instruct yourself or others, or constant filling up the space. Just observe, watch things happen, train yourself, sit down whole still and practice being an observer, a witness, which who eventually is no witnessing. There's just consciousness, and there isn't even anything witnessed. You start somewhere, you start on whatever's moving, because that's the illusion. You have to see this as an illusion. If you see it's an illusion, you don't have to leave. You don't have to join it. You don't have to do anything with it. But you probably will not add to it unless it's to help someone based on how you see whatever it is that they particularly are dealing with in their war against everything. Secret. It's secret, sometimes called self-secret, because it's in the open, but it's a kind of secret that has no clues around it. It's that, and if you see it, you because you're so used to believing or disbelieving, you won't believe it. Or you're so used to believing or disbelieving, you'll disbelieve it. Now that can't be it. That's too ordinary, too simple. But if you see what it actually is, but this is the part you want to hang your hat on. You won't see anything. There is no hook. There is no hat. You could do that. You could do that. That can be done. And it's a non-doing. It's more of a receiving. It gets very, very difficult to point to what it is, because as we get closer to fundamental ultimate reality, all the parts and the pieces and the structures come apart. There's no way to find it. It's secret. And there's no distance between you and that secret. You are that secret. Find out. Find out. Dedicate yourself to this path, or dedicate yourself to the truth. It may be another path. Maybe I have to go into Taoism or Advaita Vedanta, or I don't know. There's all kinds of ways. Excuse me, even forms of Christianity and theistic approach that have a kind of mystical area to it. And we're just talking about the truth. We're not talking about converting anybody to Buddhism. You may have to do this. You may need to do something else. But I doubt very much, based on my experience and on the experiences of those teachers down through the centuries, I doubt very much you can do this without a teacher. Probably can't do it without a teacher, a teaching, or a community. A teacher is key. Without the teacher, there is no teaching. Without the teacher, there is no community. So you can get stuck on your opinions, your ideas, your judgments, your reactions, and buy into them and be safe for 13 years, or maybe for 3 lifetimes. Go ahead. Go ahead, do that. I don't have anything to sell, nothing to promote. I can't guarantee you anything other than failure. What does it say in my cup? This is a wonderful cup someone gave me. I think it was an attorney who gave me this cup. Did you give me this cup? It says, there's little rainbows and cute little doll figures and people dancing and playing. And there's the sun in the air. And the only words on it says, death is coming. Now, why would anybody think that was an appropriate cup to buy for Sokazan? But I think it came with another, what was it? Oh no, what did he say when he gave you this? If he doesn't like it, maybe it's inappropriate. Wasn't that?
If it's too morbid.
Oh, too morbid. Too morbid? Death comes without warning. This is death. This is death. Life and death. It's non-dual. Life and death are not separate. You can realize this now. And your body can drop tomorrow and you won't mind. The bodies around you can drop. Not that you won't be heartbroken, sad, and miss them. Of course, we love everyone. I know what this is. Waste your time going around lecturing others about anything. Find out what it is. Put others before yourself, not just so you appear like you're doing that, but actually do it. You might put others before yourself and no one will even know that you're doing that because it's in consciousness. It's not just the activity of giving someone money because they have a cardboard sign. Though that may be part of it. That may be the way that you personally will have to work with it. Secret. Beyond thought. It's a beyond, it isn't even beyond. We just say that because we can't get to it. We don't know where it's at. Well, I can tell you where it's at. It's in your consciousness, in the consciousness that looks like it's yours. It's in your consciousness. When you sit down and face the wall, it's right there. You may have to look at it for many years. I certainly did. Until you understand what the teacher was pointing at. Questions if you have them. Yes, sir.
To use in mind, what's the function of chasing someone away who can't come closer without fighting?
They piss me off. Nothing has changed over here. This is the same crazy person that was born 83 years ago, or almost 83, except this one stumbled into the Dharma, into a true teacher. Have I chased you away yet?
I think so.
I tried, but you keep sticking around. Can you see what I'm saying right there?
Sure.
Being not sure is space. And that's the path. Being not sure. Space. More about that if you have it. I don't need to succeed as being a Dharma teacher. It's always the intention, even though people will talk about this different ways, and everyone should be respected for their point of view or their understanding. I don't need to succeed. Yes, sir.
Like, is it better to not act on positionality when it arises?
Yeah, don't do anything with it. Don't do anything unless you have to. I think I've been saying that since I met you. Don't do anything unless you have to. And if you really reflect on that, you're doing very little. Working, maybe having a job, paying your bills, staying out of trouble. More about it?
Senju bowing. In meditation, I spend some time entertaining myself with daydreams
Yes.
or memories. Is that time wasted?
No. There isn't any such thing as wasting time. Even going out and kicking up your heels and just having a hedonistic life is not wasting your time. There's no such thing as wasting anything. You can't waste it. But what is it you want to know? Because I'm happy to respond to that part of it.
with your instruction being to practice being an observer.
Yes. So just observe the daydream. I sometimes say it, just fall asleep. Don't try to maintain wakefulness. That's just a polished, sophisticated form of ignorance. Just be genuine, fall over, go to sleep, bang into the wall. Jodo will show you. Got scars up here from hitting the wall. Haven't you? Yes. More? So, Corinne,
So Corinne Bowie, you were saying the difficulty with the shamatha practice is a hideout.
I would say it can be. I'm not going to condemn people that practice that. There are people that practice that are probably walking around as are great teachers. I don't know, or highly enlightened. But that's susceptible. You are susceptible to that without a teacher because it's very cozy to become very stable and very tranquil. And who wants to go into Mahavipassana when feels pretty good right here, just to be kind of not much thought happening. So you really need a teacher to help you make that transition. My feeling is that Shikantaza meets you in the karma that you showed up here with. And if you need to do resting in tranquility or shamatha, you'll just naturally do that. You'll naturally follow the breath or not follow thought patterns in such a way that there's precision happening there. You're following it. Could be a daydream, but you're following that. And then when that comes apart and we start to realize or become aware of the incredible spaciousness that is around the objects that are rising, this is the beginning of Vipassana or panoramic awareness. It's still a relative situation because you can't actually find space, but we tend to objectify it so we can talk about it. Go ahead.
So Corinne Bowie, I find myself criticizing subtle criticism for not being in the present. What does it look like to observe a daydream when it appears that there's no awareness alongside or with the daydream?
There's no way you can know if there's awareness or not. If you know there's awareness, if you think I've been so aware, this is just bullshit. Don't bullshit yourself. Fail. And when I say fail, I'm saying allow yourself to see what it is without leaving what it is for a conclusion about it. Just the raw material of consciousness will not have a positive or negative or neutral. It's just awareness. That's like I'm talking to you. I'm not talking to myself. There isn't anybody but this. And it's not me. It's not you. It's just consciousness only. I couldn't speak this way if I had to think all the things up that I've just said in the last 20 minutes or whatever. I don't think about anything. That doesn't mean you stop the thought. It just means that you're aware of what thoughts are, that they stand out in front of the secret. But you can see right through them. They're transparent. So when your evaluation of yourself, just be aware of that. You don't have to stop the evaluation. You don't have to justify it or promote it or validate it. Just watch that the mind will sometimes be self-validating and sometimes it'll be very critical. Just watch those. Those are just aspects that are non-dual. More?
So Corinne Bowie, what is presence when there's no apparent? What is presence when it appears as though we're gone?
Just presence. But there's no one there, so there's no way to validate it or justify it. It will happen. It's not an occurrence, even though I have to use the word happen. If it's an occurrence, then it has a past and a future. And this presence, authentic presence, Trungpa Rinpoche called it, has no past and future. It's always here, and you've always been there. You don't get somewhere. It's not an experience. The past is gone. The future is gone as concepts or idea, and even the present is extra. You're still trying to find a position where you're in the present. Sometimes I think there's a teaching here back in the 70s that be here now, wasn't that? Yeah. Try to stay in the present moment. Just be here now. Well, no, you don't have to do that. More? Yeah. Thought there was gonna be another one. Okay,
Kelsey Bowing,
Kelsey,
what is the environment around a thought?
so when you begin to watch thoughts without adding something to them, well, it's a bad thought, it's a good thought, I shouldn't think that, or thinking about your thinking about thinking, which happens to everyone to some extent. It's when you just notice the thought and you, after a while, by not pushing it, judging it, evaluating it, trying to stop yourself from doing that, or accepting it, or explaining it, or blaming someone for it, going into the three poisons here, or ignoring, turning away, going into something else so you don't have to think about that particular thing. If you just receive it, just watch it show up, turn this way or that way, or not, maybe it won't turn at all and go away, then you begin to see, by not doing that, you begin to see the space around it. And the space around it is still objectified. So it's it's not actually what it actually is. When it's what it actually is, you can't see it because you're not separate from it. That's why it's sometimes called mirror life. This is the encouragement of the ancient sages of the past and the masters, trying to encourage you to look at something and try to see that it's a mirror. This is a way of tricking you into going into a dense, dark forest that can be scary. So when you actually see what it is, you won't see anything because you can't see yourself. Well, consciousness can't see itself because it's not separate. You've actually transcended this world. And there's still a gravity and a heart beating and a hand moving and someone about to say something.
Kelsey Bowing, so is the environment or the space around a thought separate from the thought?
Temporarily. When you first begin to, when you first get to the area where you manage to actually observe thoughts coming and going without too much addition, judging, evaluating, condemning, pushing, pulling, psychologizing, that kind of thing, turning stories into around the situation, so it will take on a separate objectivity that allows you to get closer to what? The secret. Beyond thought. Has to be some kind of spaciousness happening there. But when you actually see that, when you actually are, shall we say, realized, there isn't any space. There aren't any objects. Go ahead.
Kelsey Bowing, so the space is consciousness with the illusion present?
For a while. Eventually, even the illusion is consciousness. So everything collapses into itself would be a relative way of saying it. Difficult to do that without someone misunderstanding and thinking that something needs to be done. It just needs to be observed or received, or awareness. Awareness is the key word. Be aware of the apparent objectivity of everything, including your thought patterns. Don't accept them. Don't reject them. Don't ignore them. That's the path. One. Beyond.
Beyond Bowing, does the secret beyond thought still have a secretness to enlightened beings?
Well, it's no longer a secret, so I'm not sure what you're looking for. There isn't anything else anymore. So the elseness is gone out of it to make something up.
Beyond Bowing, what makes something a secret?
You can't see it. Somebody sees it and somebody else doesn't see it. So it's just a way of talking about it. It's sometimes called an open secret because nobody's trying to hide anything. You're hiding from yourself because you, not just you, but we're terrified of the reality that we may not exist. And that manifests up. Of course, we think we're the body. We think we are this body, mind, comp, and this body is going to die. So, but who you are can't die because it has not been born. The body's been born, but who you actually are does not come into existence or pass out of existence. More?
Beyond Bowing, I'm wondering if the secret beyond thought can be spoken of in relation to clouds in the sky. Where is the secret beyond thought and clouds in the sky?
We use those examples, it's the sky. But we're hooked on the clock, we're hooked on the weather, and we personalize everything. We don't like this, we like that. I like this, but then that started happening. When he was doing this, that seemed to be okay, and then look who came in and messed the whole thing up. Just constant stories, believing our thoughts, and we use memory to refurbish that. When it starts to come apart, we just go back and remember things, and we repeat what we remembered. And interestingly, the memory isn't even accurate. It's our projection about what we thought was happening. That's what we're remembering, is our ideas about what happened. You can't actually say what happened. In order to talk about anything that occurred 20 minutes ago, it has to go into the thought process, because there's no actual memory of anything anywhere. It's all an illusion. Michael.
Michael Bowing, I've heard you say that off the cushion, just live your life. How can I reconcile that sort of teaching with also not doing anything unless I have to?
So I'm telling you what you have to do. If you're functioning as a student of mine, and that's been an off and on situation over the last, 8-10 years or whatever it's been. Sometimes you hear, and then sometimes I don't see you for months and months. So since you're here, I'm saying meditate your ass off, young man. And all that means is just say, sit down, hold still a lot, do it a lot. I've had someone telling me the same thing, basically, but I could have sat more, could have practiced more, could have worked with the teachings of Buddha, the teacher, the teaching, the community. Those three, it's just a formula. It's not that there aren't other ways of doing it, but since you asked me, I'm saying the most important thing for you to do is to meditate. Whether you still a roxer or not, that's your business. But sitting practice of meditation, I'll tell everyone that if somebody comes forward this way and presents the way you seem to be presenting, I'm saying sitting a lot is what's important. I think it helps to do that with others, because otherwise is the word I was looking for. Otherwise, we tend to become kind of proud of how much we've been sitting, start to count, and we've sat 150 hours in the last month. And so then we start to look for spiritual materials and progress. That's why you need the teacher. So when you start feeling progress, that the teaching person, he or she or they have no position, have no reference point. They're beyond the words, and they're not secret. So then they could tell you, and their way of telling you, if they're skillful, might be able to tell you in such a way that won't be so difficult that it'll scare you away, which I'm very unskillful, so I'm always frightening people away. That's why I only have 15 students. No, I guess I have more than 32 students. More? Good question.
The only question I have,
Yes.
I think I'll just ask you later.
Okay, that's fine. Chisho. I'll get back to you in a minute. Chisho.
Kishabang, is it possible to be aware of space without objectifying it? Bye.
Yes, for a while. That's actually part of the, maybe not for everyone, but there's kind of a spaciousness, an openness that starts to show up with some objectification, but it's a transition area. It's still part of the path. It's not the goal, or it's not a fruition. Fruition, the Buddhist fruition is nothing happens, no experience, no things, no items, nothing. But even that's extra, because that's even emptiness is empty of what it's talking about or pointing to. So everything is empty. Further to show.
Kishabang, in my practice, at least, it is just, one thought and then another thought, another sound, another sight. It just keeps happening. So the awareness just seems to be of different objects.
Yes.
So that's where I was wondering about how does awareness of space even show up here?
We just objectify it by looking at the space between the table and the wall. So we think of it that way, or we might think of it between the space between words when someone is talking, or the space that shows up in different kinds of music, or in writing or poetry. There's just so many ways. The space that shows up when we fall asleep, and then that gets filled with dreams, possibly nightmares, all kinds of things like that. So the spaciousness is just the way you're describing what is happening with you. I'd say just watch what happens. Just observe what comes up and receive your understanding of space as it appears, rather than try to look for my understanding of space or some other. Yeah, you got it. Kelsey.
Kelsey Bowen, there are times where when you're speaking, you have an emotional experience.
I do.
Is that you seeing the secret beyond?
No, it's a heartbreak.
Bowen, what?
I don't know, it's hard to say. If you have me go there, then I can't talk. I don't know what it is, I just know it's intense. And it's what I'm receiving. When you talk about that, then I start receiving that. And it's suffering from everywhere.
Interested? Keep practicing. Listen to what I'm saying. Don't believe a damn thing I say. Don't believe anything. This is not I'm not trying to get any followers or believers. It's your mind. You'll realize it. You may have emotional things happen, you may not. There's nothing to live up to. Go ahead.
Kelsey Bowen, you also talk about when you see it, it'll be very ordinary.
Yes,
What is ordinary about that?
just ordinary sobbing. Aren't you a counselor? It's just ordinary, but it's just deep and it has no content. So it isn't like I'm thinking about what's happening in this place or that place. It also it shows up in different ways. When I think of my teachers, it shows up.
Embarrassing for me. I want to sit up here and cry. But I have no choice. So let's change the subject. So if I think about my teachers, it's a gratitude for all of them. And when I blow my nose, look out. I'm getting serious. Go ahead, sir.
How do you come in and out of heartbreak without getting stuck there?
There isn't anyone. Emotion is self-existing. It has no emotionator, no personhood there. I'm not frightened by anything. Life and death are the same thing. So what's going to scare me? What upsets me or what gets me emotional is if I'm around you and you're having intense emotions, I'm having them. If I'm around anyone, I'm not threatened by them. Like you maybe, you're trying to be somebody else. I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just saying quite often when we're having difficulty, we don't like that. And we don't know what caused it, who we can blame.
What goes into that heartbreak if it's not someone?
It's just the fancy word would be compassion, but there's no one who feels compassion for something else. There's just compassion. And so therefore, and if there's any singularity in there called a me or an I, that can't handle it. Yeah, so it won't go there. It will stay out, keep itself separate, and keep the compassion limited to its family members. You know what I'm talking about. Selective compassion, which is not compassion, it's sympathy or caring or relative to the love that comes out of grasping or that shows up as grasping, wanting something, not wanting this, wanting that. Somebody getting something that belongs to you. Well, anyone else? Yes.
So Green Valley, early teachings talk about the 4 elements and how they are the origin or how they can arise as phenomenon.
For instance,
For instance, the sensations could manifest as the water element, and there could be a certain characteristic of that element in the body. Or fire can manifest as burning in the body.
yes,
The elements show up in the mind as thoughts. Do the thoughts have an element quality to them? Bowing?
air. If I were going to use that, and that's fairly classical understanding of thought process, especially analysis and so on, as of the Buddha families would be Vajra. I'm not sure where you're going with all of that, but yes, you can take things and break them up, and it gives us the illusion of having a more understanding. It allows us to maybe contemplate something by using concepts and ideas and images. More.
So Bowing, when thoughts appear to be solid, is there a teaching for looking at them in a way that is helpful in not identifying with them? Bowing.
Yeah, identify with them. Don't chase away anything. If something shows up in your mind, and my way of saying this doesn't mean you're to blame, there isn't anyone there anyway, but you have it coming. It shows up in your mind. Awaken as this world, not someone in the world that's awakening. Awaken as the world, because you are not separate from it. If awakening is not an experience, if it's an experience, it will fade. We all had little mini tent shows and enlightenment times, and some of them, when I say little, I don't mean to minimize them. I've had some that were overwhelmingly powerful, but that's not awakening. Awakening is not particularly an experience. It might be the lack of experiences, if we're classified in that way. So just watch the things show up don't do anything with them. Just let them grow. Let them show up and have at it. The only container you need is the body mind. You're sitting still and you're watching what comes and goes and comes and goes. And the experience may be rough and ready, and it may be very smooth. It may be like sleeping. Any number of things. Am I getting close to what you're looking for, or am I missing the point of your question?
No, it's very unsatisfying.
My response? Yeah, good. Good. I have to help you by pointing at the truth, not by encouraging you to go into some kind of a imaginary peaceful state. I'm not in a peaceful state. I'm not in a state of war. There is no state here. Otherwise, I couldn't do that. You bring the state in here and you ask me questions, and I'm immediately in your state, and that's where I respond. Everybody leaves the room, nothing's happening. More? Sorry to be so disappointing. What was that cup saying? Death is coming. I have another cup that was, I don't know who gave me this. Who gave me the cup that says, disappointment awaits? That's a really good cup too.
Fine.
Who did?
Fine.
Who?
Fine.
It's that the guy who's lives up in Grand Rapids. Who does he think he is? Give me a cup. Yeah. Isn't that the name of a park or something like that, or a body of water somewhere? Disappointment awaits. Does anyone know? You know?
It was a park that he visited,
Oh,
Disappointment Cove.
oh, I see. Disappointment awaits. Is there a question on Zoom?
Yi Hong Baoing.
Work it out, you guys. Young, go ahead. And we'll go back to Jishin afterwards.
Yi Hong Baoing. Besides receiving, for close family members, in general, when is a good time to suggest? Baoing.
You know, I understand the question. It's a very good question, but I think it's so situational, and you'll be able to work with the situations more, say, precisely or closely to beyond your preconceptions about what someone is doing or saying, if you really work with your own preconceptions about what you are doing or saying. That way, when other people show up, you have some clarity about what they're doing or saying, and that way you can give them some feedback possibly that will be fairly accurate, rather than just tumble over on top of your preconceptions where you totally missed the point. That's why I sometimes ask people, did I get close to what you wanted to know, instead of just responded to what I thought your question was rather than what actually you wanted to know. So in your situation, are you talking about your children? Or, you know, but with children,
Yes.
children, yeah, I would say less is better. Less is better of telling them what to do, and more is better of listening to them. And one of the ways to listen to them more creatively is to ask them questions, not philosophical questions, very, very simple, ordinary questions, by watching what they're doing, watching what they like, watching what they read or what they play with, and ask them questions so that they're are looking into whatever they're doing and receiving from it. You can encourage your children to receive their world rather than just manipulate it. And then you may see an opening there where you can, because the opening will be natural because you're receiving from them. You're asking a question, then you're receiving what they say. I don't know how else to say it other than that, unless you have another question. Okay. Nilka.
Nilka Bowing, question on YouTube from Joseph in Fort Wayne. Joseph Bowing, what is a teacher? Bowing.
Well, there's a good example of what is a teacher. What is it you want to know about that? There's all kinds of teachers. A spiritual teacher is one who sees what this world actually is and meets you where you're at. If you're a student, there's no teacher unless there's a student. So I can't teach unless people show up and ask questions. So I'm not sure if there's something specific you're looking for. The teachers show up in all different kinds of ways, they teach in different ways.
Wanda Bowing, when you were answering Sokerin, you were saying, let whatever shows up come and go.
That was extra. I shouldn't say let.
Well, in some ways, are you saying trust our consciousness?
Yes, I'm saying if something's happening to you, it's supposed to happen. It's just basically dependent origination. It's like don't argue with the weather, whether it's out in the world or up in the clouds or in your mind stream. Don't set up standards for anything. Whatever shows up, be generous with your attention, give it your attention, have gratitude that you're even a living being, that you can even have a precious human birth to be able to receive this incredible teaching about the nature of consciousness. Because there's consciousnesses wrapped up in balls everywhere in the universe at war, fighting right on this ball of dirt in the middle of nowhere called Earth. The warfare here, we may not make it. There's just too much confusion. When I say make it, I'm saying from the relative point of view, there's no way you can fail. Can't fail with this. But it can look like failure, and it can be excruciatingly painful. Go ahead.
Wanda Bowing. Are you saying then to trust our consciousness, to observe and receive, and that we don't have to generate observing and receiving? It will
It's not automatic. That's another word that automatic is more like this. Yeah, I put it in gear and drop the clutch, and then I just look the other way. Not many people are going to understand what I just said, but unless you were born a while ago. So it's like that. It's like allow. It's another word that's saying you're doing something, but it's just don't interfere with what's arising other than to receive it. It's like somebody knocking on your door. You open the door, and that first situation that shows up, it could be someone selling something. It could be a neighbor needing some help. It could be any number of things, but you open the door and you immediately receive that. You have to receive it pretty fundamentally, if too much time goes by, then we start projecting onto it. We start protecting ourselves from our neighbor that needs help, being suspicious of that. So, yes.
Alder Bowing, is receiving a choice?
So I think it's a practice. This is something we do. We sit down and hold still. If you're listening to what I'm saying just whatever shows up in your mind, just think it, just feel it, just hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it. Whatever happens, just receive that with as little addition to it as possible. So there's a little bit of choice, of selective between this and this. There's a little bit going on, but it's not as much. There's not very much there. You didn't choose your hands that are doing this. So the leading edge of something has some areas that look like choice. Opening the door and deciding whether to close it or not. A little bit of choice, but it's dependently arisen, and it also depends on the karma that brought you into this world in the first place. How much preloaded you are with fear because of how you were treated in the 13th century. Not you, but this consciousness, which doesn't belong to anyone, which can show up anywhere. More?
Alder Bowing, how much of a choice is it to see beyond thoughts?
I can't really see beyond thoughts. That because that's a secret. The secret's beyond thoughts, and if you look beyond thoughts, it'd just be secret. Where do you look? You look at the thought. That's why I say over and over again, whatever shows up in your mind, just observe it. It may feel good, it may feel bad, it may smell, it may be fragrant, maybe tasty, maybe terrible, and just whatever occurs is what needs to happen. You may just have a reaction and reject it. Receive that. Don't double up with more negativity and then condemn yourself for not being able to receive it. It's just just awareness, not producing anything. More? Any more questions on Zoom?
Jixin Bowing.
Go ahead, Eugene.
Is feeling comfortable in spaciousness and ego gain? Bowing.
I'm sorry, Justine, you're going to have to repeat that again.
Is feeling comfortable in spaciousness and ego gain?
No.
Oh.
No, it's not. Further questions on Zoom before we go back to the Zendo?
Navid Bowing.
Navid, go ahead.
What is it that prevents consciousness to be liberated? Bowing.
Well, simply put, fear. Because some causes and conditions have come together in such a way that it creates a singularity that is unreal, called a human form. And then the consciousnesses, I'm sure if you've talked to 15 people, you find people that are all different kinds of people that seem to be very open-minded and considerate and reasonable, and other people that are all tied up in knots and are all about fighting, defending themselves, and blaming you for whatever they can. There's just so many different ways that the situation works, but it's basically fear of other, which is unreal, and fear of open spaces. More?
Navid Bowing. So is that liberation from that fear? Bowing.
It's just the fear. The fear may continue because it's dependently risen. There's a human form, an organism, a body, you or me or any of us here. If that's still going on, you're still alive, haven't passed away yet, then the fear may show up and come and go, but it won't find an individual who's afraid. So that doesn't mean that you won't have the experience of fear. It just won't have much longevity. Might last 30 seconds, or it might last a lot longer, but there's no individual who is adding up and noticing how afraid they are and wonder if that's going to happen again, and adding a whole lot of using the memory of other times when they've been afraid and packing things together, trying to get some kind of a solid identity of someone who's afraid and somebody needs to buy a Glock to protect themselves. So I'm not separate from that. I'm not separating myself out where I'm this special person who not afraid of anything. Fear still shows up here. All kinds of things show up here. And that's why it's so difficult, because if you keep evaluating yourself and try to find out how enlightened you are, then you'll do that with yourself and with others. You might do it with the teacher to find out, well, they're acting this way and that way. This is a big misunderstanding. My teacher, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, was evaluated heavily. And I'm not here to defend him. I'm not going to defend anything he did. He was a very difficult lifetime for him, and very lucky to for anyone who ran into him as a student, because of his incredible ability to see deeply into his students and give them the kind of help they needed to continue on the path of the Buddha. So fear may show up, but you won't mind. You won't mind this situation. I don't know how else to say it, because it sounds kind of humorous in a way. You won't mind feeling bad. You won't, because you don't. It doesn't mean that suddenly there's a person who is feeling bad that has to do something about it. No, it's just like it's almost like you were served a meal by your in-laws and you have to be polite and eat it. It's not exactly that way, but I thought that was a humorous example. Maybe you don't. Receive it, receive this incredible world, receive this lifetime that you don't know how you got here, but here you are, and you have this kind of a ability or skill or mental quality or appearance or whatever it is. And if you're listening to me, then as far as I'm concerned, you're what is called free and well favored. You're free to come to such a meeting as this, which has no proof, no promises. And you're well favored, as you've heard me say before, and is a traditional way of talking about it. You aren't so locked up with your own static ideas and beliefs and opinions that are fear-based that you don't dare to even look at something where there's a golden idol sitting up in front. This is here deliberately. We don't take this away and put a rock there. There's no lineage there. There needs to be a human lineage. Even if we use a carving, there needs to be human beings, one after the other. The song of the lineage is so very important. We have 2,500 years of lineage. Further questions?
Yuhong Baoying.
Young?
Without the human birth, I cannot be on the path. You often say, train our mind. What's the role of the body?
What's the what?
What's the role of the body? When you say train the mind, I somehow underestimate of the human birth, the body. So I'm wondering, what does the body do while we train the mind?
Body and mind are not two different things. They just look like it. It looks like the mind is over here thinking this and the body's over here fixing spaghetti. But you can think about something else while you're doing the dishes or something. But that's just the ability of the body-mind complex to work in that way. What do they call it? Multitasking or something? It's not really happening in that way. So you can't find the mind to train it other than we can read Dogen Zenji, and we can study that together, which we do every day, at least not in the middle of Ango, but we do it the rest of the year. We study, we work together on it. We study these amazing teachings. So that's one way of working with it, to actually bring in concepts and ideas like the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the 12 links on the chain of existence, just to name the ones that stick in my memory. And then hold the body very still and watch what continues to happen in that part of the body we call the mind. It keeps moving and twitching and throwing this and pushing that and pushing that. Just observe that movement without comment. It takes years. You have a good start. Keep going, keep going, keep going. There won't be necessarily signposts on the road. Now, people teach us differently, and there are other teachers that will give you all kinds of ways of looking at it, or and levels of understanding. There's a lot of them. One of them is in the Mahayana, there's the 10 Bodhisattva Bhumis. I'm not against that. I just don't think they're linear, the way the picture is painted there. So just keep body, mind are not separate. They're separated, and we tend to separate it even more by trying to get ourselves to do this and think that, thinking about this, and then you know how you can drive a car and to someplace you're used to going, and the body just takes you there because consciousness is always finds the form it needs, including your workplace. Even though you're thinking about your kids or you're worried about something, you just next thing you know, you find you're at work. It's just a way of talking about it. Not separate, not separate. Are we done? Is there a final question on Zoom? I'll start with there and then I'll come back here. No? Okay, is there a final question in Zendo? So everybody's wants lunch. Oh, very good. Thank you so much.
May the merit of this penetrate into all places, so that we and every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. Jiro san shi shi fu shi son bu sa moko sa moko cha. The 10 directions, the 3 times, all Buddhas, all venerable ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna Paramita.
O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and the 3 times, please hear us. Please come down out of the light and protect Sokokoji Buddhist Temple Monastery, our Sangha, families, friends, and visitors. Heal everyone who is unhappy, sick, or suffering, and fill them with light. Supplication for the long life of children Sukadana.
Namo to Kobachino Roshi and the Soto Zen lineage, Shogyam Trungpa Rinpoche and the Karma Kagyu lineage, the Order of Immediate Light, Queen Srimala and the Mothers of Wisdom, all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, ancestors and heirs, and the Masters of the 3 times. You are the Vajra-like awareness, manifest for all beings, as a mountain, as the Garuda, outrageous and inscrutable. May that mountain, patient and immovable, be a platform for Buddha activity to flourish in all directions and times. Please remain so that we may awaken into true devotion and fulfill our vow to liberate all sentient beings. Om Ah Hum Vajra Guru Padma Siddhi Hum.